он может быть псих, но точно знает, что он хочет достичь своей цели. Дима, ты помнишь, последний раз мы здесь были по Триумфальной арке, могилы неизвестного солдата. Помнишь, что ты сказал? Что если бы люди осознали, какое воздействие мы оказываем на мир, повредиться, распространить энергию. Все готовы? Давай, жми на газ. Давай.
It really is unbelievable. What you're watching here is footage from the game Battlefield 3, which was released in 2011, and in the game the player has to take on a mission in which they need to neutralise a terrorist threat in Paris, France, and guess what date this threat takes place on? Yeah, you got it right. It's the 13th of November. Pre-programming at its finest. Well, in this video we're going to take a look at some of the other aspects of this event in Paris, which hint to us that this may very well have been a satanic, ritualistic, sacrificial offering to Mars, the god of war.
Looked to for strength are smoldering in ruin. This is what your greed has brought you.
Well, again I want to reiterate that our utmost condolences are with the victims and their families at this awful time during this horrific event that took place in Paris. I hope you appreciate that it's in our best interest to get to the bottom of what exactly happened here. There's a cult group on YouTube that like to suggest that none of this is real, it was only using crisis actors and no one died or no one got hurt. And not only is that disrespectful to the victims involved and part of the disillusionment and desensitization agenda, it also stands in the face of millennia of similar sacrificial practices. There is nothing new under the sun, and I do believe, from what I've researched and what I've seen, that this was in fact a ritualistic offering to the god of war. Well, one of the first signs that there was something a little bit suspect about this event was the fact that it took place on Friday the 13th, which, as many of us know, as far as dates go, is one of the favourites amongst the occult. And not only that, Friday the 13th was the date the Knights Templar were arrested from their Paris headquarters and then burnt at the stake all those years ago. And then they obviously went on to form the secret societies. And then not only that, One of the biggest massacres that took place in this string of killings in Paris on Friday the 13th was at the Bataclan Theatre. And as we discussed before, the band that was playing was very satanic, is the Eagles of Death Metal. And ironically, the newspapers then started coming out with stories like this. The band had just finished playing a number called Save a Prayer, and having told their raucous Parisian fans they loved them, they were launching into another favourite, Kiss the Devil, when the ISIS gunmen began their massacre. And look at this one from the Daily Mail. Who'll love the devil? Who'll sing his song? By the grimmest of ironies, those are the lyrics of the song that the Eagles of Death Metal were playing when the first bullet struck. Now we know the answer. I tell you, it's rather sick when you start to see this picture forming, the puzzle pieces coming together of this Friday the 13th massacre in Paris. And I tell you what, it starts to get a lot more obvious when we take into account the location of where these attacks took place and their symbolic significance, which we'll look into in a second. But so what is the social, political agenda if these indeed were false flags and a satanic ritual? What would be the social and political agenda behind it? Well, as you can see quite clearly here from this emblem that has been paraded around, not only is it the Eiffel Tower and the symbol of the false peace of the Antichrist, but it's also a subtle hint towards anarchy here, the anarchy symbol, and that is exactly where all of this is leading, the order out of chaos, you know, their motto, towards World War III and a false staged revolution, as per usual, the ending of religion, the demonizing of religion, to make way for their new age of Luciferian false light, just like Albert Pike said, the ending of traditional religion to make way for this new age light of Lucifer. And it's the false light. It's actually the age of Antichrist. And Aleister Crowley was involved in talking of these things too. It's been the agenda for a long time. And that's exactly what all of this is about. The false revolution, the squeeze of the police state, the rise of war, the rise of terrorism that is in actual fact manufactured so that the Antichrist can rise on the scene and be the answer to this Hegelian dialectic. And that's why they're all pushing for this revolution. Do not believe it. This has been done before. Counterfeit, staged revolution. They want this system to fall to make way for the New World Order. And this was a Mars, god of war, ritual. And we'll see that in a second here. As we saw in the As Above, So Below movie poster, which is about the catacombs in the underworld in Paris. As Above, So Below being a magical hermetic principle. You see the Eiffel Tower on there, which is itself a transmitter or a conductor. And you see there it being linked to the underworld. The Eiffel Tower itself is an antenna and also represents Nimrod's phallic. Now, I've been reliably informed by someone who lives in Paris that all of the venues, excluding the stadium in which these shootings took place on Friday the 13th, so all of the venues, including the Bataclan Theatre, were in the vicinity of the Eiffel Tower, or the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower was designed by a Freemason who also worked on the Statue of Liberty, which is, of course, Isis and the light bearer. And the Eiffel Tower in itself is on a prominent ley line. Now here's where it starts to get a little interesting. I remembered that As Above, So Below movie poster and I looked it up, and of course As Above, So Below is a sex magic principle which quite often ties into these things. But then upon further travels through the internet, I came across this site which showed quite clearly that there is in fact a temple of Mars in the centre of Paris. This as I said, the Eiffel Tower represents the phallic of Nimrod. So let me read you some of this website, which, remember, was written way before any of these events took place in Paris over the last few days. This is just someone's research into the symbology, the symbolism of Paris, the centre of Paris. So the tower erected in 1889 by Freemason Gustave Eiffel, who also designed the inner structure of the Statue of Liberty, remains to this day the tallest structure in Paris. The Eiffel Tower served as the entrance to the World's Fair, opening out onto the Champ de Mars. The Mars field is named after the Campus Martius in Rome, which honours the Roman god of war. You've got Isis looking up at the phallus of Osiris. So remember, regarding these attacks, who carried out the attacks? Isis. Almost like an offering right there. I've been using the most popular depiction of a man's body ever made, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, to uncover embodied urban symbolism. Remember, the body is the temple, and how effective temples are based on the human body. I've just found such a temple resonating with Mars in the heart of Paris. And there quite clearly you can see the representation of the Eiffel Tower as the phallic, and the Luxor obelisk is in the position of his third eye. So there you've got the layout for what is effectively a temple without walls, an invisible temple. Mars's phallus obviously maps to the Eiffel Tower. His navel power chakra maps to the fountain at the centre of the paths. His heart chakra is on the cross axis with the ancient Egyptian themed 1989 Monument of Human Rights, and the obelisk, the Luxor obelisk, is in the position of his third eye or pineal gland. So there you have an invisible temple. The red and white fields resonate with the two hemispheres of the brain, the colours of Upper and Lower Egypt, the two springs at Glastonbury, or blood and semen. The lattermost pairing resonates with the killing and rape associated with war. So what we've essentially got is a temple of Mars in the centre of Paris, with the Eiffel Tower being the phallic symbolism, on this prominent ley line in the vicinity of these killings that took place by Isis near the phallic of what would be Osiris. And here's another key clue to this whole god of war ritual, because remember, they are pushing war from this. To cut a long story short, basically this person figures out they draw a circular circumference of 66,666,666 square meters, and they flew it back to France. Take a look at the website if you get a chance, and you can read more in detail. And they copied the longitude of the centre of this circle and flew it back to Paris, where they created a placemark along the Eiffel Tower, as shown in this picture. Champ de Mars axis. And within this vicinity is what I was reliably informed, that the Bataclan Theatre and the other places near the Eiffel Tower where this all took place. And the red line from the Luxor obelisk traces the central axis of embodied Mars straight through the Eiffel Tower at a heading of 314 degrees recalling pi. Extending this line across the Earth, it goes directly to the centre of Danebury, Iron Age hill fort in the UK. Built in the 6th century BC, Danebury is an intriguing place for the Paris-Mars axis to end up for several reasons. The Meteorological Society lists the first British meteorite find from the Danebury Hill Fort site. I'm going to hazard a guess that this meteorite came from Mars. Just a stone's throw from the hill fort was a Roman villa, or country farmhouse, whose central floor mosaic has survived and had been recently installed in the Museum of the Iron Age in nearby Andover. The mosaic depicts Mars at the centre of the main room. And there's the picture of Mars, the mosaic of Mars. So you see that on that axis, all to do with Mars and linking to this ancient meteor site in Danebury. Do you think all of this links together? What are the chances of all of that happening in the vicinity of a temple of Mars, what would be a temple of Mars, ISIS carrying out the attacks near the phallic of Nimrod, the phallic, which is an antenna being on the axis that links straight to an ancient site that a meteorite fell and has depictions of Mars. And whilst they're pushing for war as a result of this event. I don't think that's a coincidence, personally. That's just my personal opinion. And obviously all of these are personal opinions. They are not absolute 100% fact. But all we can do is try and work this out together, try and expose what's going on from the Edomite synagogue of Satan, and really see that we are in the end times, as the Bible prophesied, and that there is nothing new under the sun with these goings on, and that Jesus Christ, obviously blood sacrifice is important to these people. Jesus Christ is the only one who shed his pure innocent blood, who never sinned. He shed his pure innocent blood because he was the Son of God and he never sinned. And because of that, he is the only sacrifice that can save you from your sin. Very, very significant that Jesus shed his blood and died for you on the cross and died for me on the cross, because without him, I would be going to hell. I'm not going to lie to you here, but if you don't accept Jesus Christ, then you will go to hell. And that's a matter of fact. I'm not lying to you by saying that. I'm telling you the truth, that turn to Jesus before it's too late and you will be saved from hell. You'll be saved, you'll be given life, new life, and you'll go to be with him one day, go to be with our Father. He is the only one who paid the price and gave his life for you. I'm not going to lie. It would be cruel to not tell you that truth, because that is the only truth that matters. And that is what we're trying to show here. That's what I'm trying to show here, that the spiritual world really exists. Is there any denying it? You can see it right in front of your eyes. We're in a privileged time, in a sense, because we can see what is going on. And Jesus is the truth, the only way.